Hello, I'm Nick Briggs, and you're listening to the legend of the travelling TARDIS. You say travelling time lord.
Do it again. Just do it again. Just for the count. Okay. Just for the sake. Go ahead, Nick.
Hello, I'm Nicholas Briggs, and this is the legend of the travelling TARDIS.
Hello and welcome, fellow Whovians, to the legend of the traveling TARDIS. I'm your host, Paparazzo Dave Chapman. Welcome, everybody. We are coming at you an hour early, so if you're here, thank you so much for joining us. We've got a great guest over in the UK. It's rather late there, so we're going a little bit early tonight. Of course, as always, I'm not here alone. But we do have a slightly smaller crew than usual, given the time. So let's start with Sean, I think. Hey, Sean, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It is a hot day, but I am on a cool panel with cool people, so I'm excited about this episode. How's that?
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm very lucky. I'm also over in London right now, as well as our guest being over in this side of the pond. So the heat, I brought some of the cool weather with me. Cool being a relative term, just no longer melt your face hot. So yay.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of melt your face hot, there's a Christian level segue for you. Mr. Mark Muncy, welcome back.
I was wondering who you were going to go with for that.
Long time no see, my friend.
Yeah, it's been a bit. Sorry, gang. Health issues and all the fun of launching a new book. So we've been on the pre-tour for that. I've been doing a lot of other shows and things like that. So love you all. I'm back. I'm glad to be here. So,
well, after the commercial break, you'll have to give us a quick 30-second on the new book.
I'll do a promo whenever I can. You know that. So
excellent. All right, and we will have a short Who Knew News today, but let's start that up and bring up, where is the button I need? The Who Knew News with Gadget.
Hey guys, it is hot here in New York and everything, but how's everybody doing?
Wunderbar.
Well, today, let me just say that we should think about something really right now, because like the doctor says, be kind and everything. Well, some people need a little kindness right now. So I just really want everybody to pray for those that are in like hurricane areas, as well as people for Texas and everything, because a lot of families lost their lives. Children were lost. There's hopefully there's some good news that they found somebody, because they are finding some of the survivors. But right now, just pray that everything goes well for the families, that give them strength and everything, as well as those families that are also in Durham, North Carolina, who were flooded out from the storm that happened right now. Because right now we're in a topsy-turvy, wibbly-wobbly world, and it's, you know what I mean? We just need a little kindness right now. And we'll go into something happy right now. Well, sort of happy, if you want to consider 106 years old happy, if he was still alive, and I'm hoping and praying and wish he was. But our own Dr. John Pertwee third Doctor, was born on July 7th, 1919. So he would have been 106 years old. And wow, like
So-
imagine what the stories he could tell.
I know, right? There's him telling stories right there.
Yep.
Oh, the stories I could tell.
He's
The only
gonna
picture
sit there and enjoy a night with us. And then we have something for those of you unit fans and everything. If you're going to San Diego Comic-Con, it seems that BBC is bringing Doctor Who Universe San Diego Comic-Con 2025 from Thursday, July 24th till Sunday, July 27th in a fully immersed fan experience that will take over Harbor Club in the Gaslamp District at 100 East Harbor Drive, offering a rare opportunity to step inside the unit top secret black archives, the Candlelist facility featuring the Day of the Doctor. You'll be equipped with a level 1 unit clearance badge. Fans will gain access to a vault of alien relics, timey-wimey tech, pulled from 6 decades of Doctor Who. Inside, expect to encounter some of the Doctor's most iconic adversaries, including Dalek mutants, Cybermen, and the Silence. By the way, did anybody know? Okay. As well as many Easter eggs hinting at the upcoming spin-off series, The War Between the Land and the Sea. So I suggest all of you going to San Diego Con better send us some pictures and some video, because right now I think our own Candyman is probably going to pop a plane to come to this, because this is so cool and everything. And there is some sad news for Who fans. If you've been watching Doctor Who on HBO Max, their contract seems to have run out as of July 31st. I'm just making sure something doesn't go off real quick while I'm reading this to you guys and everything. It seems that the reboot that ran from 2005 to 2022 on HBO Max, including part of this up until the 60th anniversary specials on Disney Plus, basically are being finalized and will cease service as of this July 31st. So until then, you can still watch the seasons 2005 to 2022, catch up on your, like I have to the 12th and 13th Doctor, but otherwise, at this point right now, it might still be on Tubi, Disney Plus, but otherwise, if you have the DVDs, all power to you, because this is the problem with streaming services. Once it's there, it's gone. You know, at least if you have the DVDs, you can watch them whenever you want.
It'll be back.
Yeah, it'll be. Maybe we'll see them on Prime. Maybe we'll see them on Paramount Plus. Maybe we'll see them on Netflix. Who knows? But as of now, I would say binge watch, because that's it. July 31st, it's done.
Canada is already on Prime, so we'll see if it's still. I'll have to keep an eye out at the end of the month, see if it's still on Prime or not.
Because with this turnover, we don't know what's going to happen and everything. If it goes on hiatus, it's a good thing. Maybe they got to revamp it for the new generation, but who knows? We had a gap before. We survived and everything. Otherwise, that's all the news we have right now, because the only thing that's coming up is that unit thing about land between the war and the sea, which is what they're heavily promoting right now.
Excellent. Well, then let's just keep it short and sweet, and more time for our amazing guest.
Yep.
Let's make that official. No more Hulu news.
Yeah,
So-
it seems you have a lot of authors on today.
We do. Almost like there's a reason for that. Because we're doing an interview with an author, Alex Storr, author of Evolution of the Toy Dalek, as well as Blackpool Remembered, a visual history of the classic Doctor Who exhibition. So let's bring him in. Hello, Alex.
Hi there. Good
How are
morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to be here.
Excellent. So let's start out with a bang here. Tell us about your new book here, Evolution of the Toy Dalek.
Yeah, well, this is as somebody that has been as obsessed with the Daleks for as long as I've been obsessed with Doctor Who. This was a lifelong sort of obsession for me. Something I'd always wanted to do, but didn't quite know how and why or when. I never intended to be an author. That's quite stupid, really. But here we are. But this was published by Telos in March this year, and I'm really proud of it. And it's a history of all the major toy and model Daleks from the 1960s right up to present day. It's quite a bit of a geeky analysis and a critique comparison, but there's also history of the toy companies that made them, interviews with some of the people that were behind those companies, and a whole load of other things. So it's really it's been a labor of love because I've also designed it as well as written it. So I think from that point of view, I've made the book that I wanted to see, because I realized at some point nobody had ever done a book just about toy Daleks, and they're obviously the most popular line of Doctor Who merchandise. Yeah, we've had merchandise specials and magazines and bits that the Daleks have featured in, but I thought it was about time they had their own.
Definitely about time, I think. And now this is not a comprehensive every toy ever book, is it?
It would probably need to be twice the size for that. I deliberately avoided things like board games, or it's really, I mean, there's a few sort of non-toy things in there, but I really wanted to stick to the figures, the toys, the models, and all the major lines. And pretty much most stuff is in there. Certainly stuff that I've enjoyed collecting over the years, or in many cases didn't get to collect. But
I see one of them from the book on your shelf right now.
More.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Yeah.
I see that. That's almost the whole Eagle Moss collection back there. It looks like.
One of the nice things about putting that book together was talking with a lot of other fans, because everybody's collection's unique. Although everyone's got a collection that's full of all sorts of stuff, none are the same. So there's always somebody that's got something that you want.
Yeah, I have the Dalek pillow in here somewhere. I don't know where it went, but I had gotten this on my trip to England. It was in one of those surprise boxes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I was like, wait a minute, and everything. I thought this was cute.
You guys heard Dave when he was introducing Alex, right? Because it sounded like the audio cut out for a second while Alex was being introduced. Did you guys all hear what Dave was saying? Because I didn't actually hear the name on my end.
Oh,
I think we heard.
well, that's not good on mine.
Okay, I was just making sure, Alex, that you actually got a chance to have your name introduced. So, yeah,
we're a professional podcast. We know what we're doing. No way.
I've got a heck of a bit of an echo in where I am, so that's kind of, I think, eating some of the name.
Well,
but
trying to keep my
that's
microphone.
Part of the fun. So, Alex, you said you didn't want to be an author, but now you are. Have you written anything before this, or is this your debut?
I've always enjoyed writing. I just never thought I'd be in a position where it would be published, especially published by Telos, whose books I've been enjoying for decades. No, I'd previously written a couple of Doctor Who books, some free online stuff, and also some music books. So I enjoyed writing. So it was a logical thing to do with looking at what I could do about the Daleks.
Could you tie in the electric music with the Daleks one time, or is it totally different? Like you have one set is your author side and one set's your music side.
I'm kind of multifaceted. I work as a designer. I'm a science fiction artist and electronic musician. So the writing thing's kind of new. So maybe one day it will all merge into a big, horrible mess, and who knows what will happen.
I had sorry.
Go ahead.
No, Alex was saying something. I'm going to let him.
Comment from the audience here. Just Alex Dorr is an awesome talent.
Thank you, the Timescales.
Tap the like. I believe you had an interview with Timescales a little while back as well.
I certainly did, yeah. It was a good one.
Sweet.
Is this one of the only legends ever hosted from the UK? Technically, yes, because usually I've been on from the UK, and I know Mark has had to host the odd thing himself, but I think this is one of the bigger ones when it's actually being hosted from the UK, according to American time. Yes, I am. I'm very
I had one question for you, Alex. Can I do that, Dave? Or are you still?
Yes, by all means.
Yeah, go.
Okay. All right. Which is, you said you didn't want to be an author. I'm partially a writer myself. I mainly just do essays that concern like current news or philosophy or those kinds of things. And I noticed I had a chance to read through a good chunk of the Dalek toys overview that you had in the book. And I noticed that you strike a pretty good balance between detail and keeping it engaging. And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you were going through. You're like, I want to be thorough with the things I am including, but I'm sure there's a bunch of detail where, you know, and I know when you're writing sometimes, like just for anyone writing, like it's just, you have to figure out what to trim. And especially for a nonfiction book, when you're talking about something that's kind of niche, I think you did a great job of keeping that balance in there. And I wanted to ask, was that difficult? Was there stuff that you wanted to include that maybe ended up on the cutting room floor? That's what I wanted to ask.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I didn't want to make it a dry history. I thought if I'm going to be writing this, it needs to be, I want my own voice to be present. But I think, you know, there's a lot of nostalgia in the book, but you need to balance that, I think, with facts and information. And I was working on the thinking that, okay, I'm writing this because it's the book I want to read. And hopefully a lot of other Doctor Who fans will as well. But then you think there could be a wider audience than that. So you need to really sort of think about even things just like not getting carried away referencing episodes and forgetting to put the year in. You know, you got to think somebody could be reading this for the first time and not know when Destiny of the Daleks was broadcast or what Davros is or that sort of thing. So it went through a number of edits, but not massively. The origin of the book actually went back a good couple of years. I wrote, there was an earlier version which I put online for free when I'd done it, because I was out of action with a bad back for a long time, and that was when the first draft of the project came together. But then it's kind of grown from there. So it's been a bit of a learning exercise for me as well to sort of find my way in writing about it, but it's the sort of thing I realized that I really enjoy doing.
Yeah, and I love niche stuff. I love stuff that you could just go into a lot of detail about. And it's like, I think it takes a talented person to be like, okay, I'm going to make this niche topic from something that's already pretty geeky that we all love very interesting. You know, I love that kind of thing. So
dialing the geek up to 11.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Mark Dunn says, just saw it come up on my feed to say hello to my good friend Alex from Australia.
Yeah, Mark played a big part in the book. A lot of the photographs in there were taken by Mark for his from his amazing collection.
Good.
So it was quite a really fun collaborative effort, because, you know, Mark came over to the UK in late 2023, and we went up to the Museum of Classic Sci-Fi together, and you know, we just become very good friends. And I don't have everything that's in the book, unfortunately. And but one of the things that I was obviously as the designer of the book, I took a lot of photographs for it. But I wanted it to be illustrated by new photos. I didn't want it to be photos we'd all seen before, which meant that almost everything had to be purpose taken. So we've got over 300 photographs, which were all taken for the book. So part of the daily routine would be messaging Mark saying, Mark, have you got? And he would know that he'd need to get the camera out and photograph something.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of good stuff in it. Yeah, that's the other book. But also good pictures. But
So
yeah,
you had a lot of
Those are
photographs
great
taken.
photos.
How much did you have to rely on archival photos?
Well, that was the whole intention, was not relying on archival photographs, and there aren't any in there, I don't think, apart from some of the 60s stuff.
Nice. Nice. That's always a problem with when you're doing a historical text is, you know, I want to do more what they look like now, not what they looked like then. So it's tricky.
I'm wondering, the colored ones are what they probably used in the Looney Tunes movie as like an homage to Doctor Who, because of the movies and everything with Warner Brothers, because I'm looking at some of your pictures and I was like, oh, they look like the Daleks that are in Looney Tunes Back in Action, and that's when I started watching. Yeah, like those, yeah. But those were used in which episode of Doctor Who? I forgot.
Well, they were also from the old original 60s movies.
Okay.
The Peter Cushing movies. Because that was the first time Doctor Who was in color, so they had to use some of those. But again, they brought him back in New Who.
Right.
Yeah. All over the place.
Yeah, I think they took a lot of the big chunky 60s movie Daleks. I think they took a bit of inspiration from them for the Paradigm Daleks, which everybody seems to hate. But they made good toys.
I think
as you've got a whole book about them, and they make such good toys.
Absolutely. They're the perfect toy. They're the toy manufacturer's dream, surely.
Wasn't one of them motorized where you can use the motorized controllers, or the toy ones, or they didn't make that one?
I think pretty much since the show came back, there's been more and more
Motorized
Daleks and all that sort of thing. There was never any back in the day, back in the classic era.
So they would just like this little thing had nothing on the bottom, and they just would like play like that and everything. Versus today that
they had push and go mechanisms, so you'd push it and it'd trundle off and come to a crawl. Or some of them had like a directional ball bearing in the front, so it would sort of move around a little bit.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that you talked about in there too is how spoiled we are nowadays with merch and how difficult it was to find authentic merch. That's not just a Doctor Who thing. That's a lot of franchises back then.
No, especially over here in the States, as Doctor Who was just coming on, Tom Baker era through PBS. That was the first time we were getting it. There was no merchandise as a kid. Man, it was you were when the comic cons would be around, or the early Star Trek cons. That was what we had. There was no Doctor Who anywhere. If you were lucky, you might get one of the Target novelizations or something like that as they were coming to the U.S. But toys, man, they didn't start showing up till the 80s, mid 80s, late 80s. And even then it was sporadic. When I traveled to the UK, I was so thrilled. I was 89. I was in high school, and it was like, oh my God, there's so much Doctor Who. I want to bring it all home. And I did bring a bunch of it.
Before then, I grew up in the early 80s, and the only thing I wanted was a toy Dalek and Doctor Who figures, and back then they did not exist. I had the Star Wars stuff, I had Masters of the Universe, I had Thundercats, all the other stuff, but all I wanted was Doctor Who stuff. And it took until the late 1980s when Dapol got the license to finally produce the first full figure range. But it was like all my birthdays had come at once when they came out.
Yep. I remember that.
I wanted a canine and everything. I was trying when I went to the Doctor Who experience. I was like, I get to see canine. I got to pet it, everything. I said, I want to take it home and stuff, because we didn't have anything. It was just watching it on PBS.
The rise and fall of the toys, even over here now. Yeah, we're kind of at this ebb of the tide. Toys are. You go to a Comic-Con, you're not going to see a lot of Doctor Who again. It's like, it's back to the wilderness years again.
We only got, what did we get this year? Only the Barbie dolls that we got. That was really it.
I think that was it over here. So but it's you can watch that rise and fall. It was interesting when the Tennant and Matt Smith years. There was toys everywhere again, and then nope, they all started disappearing again.
And how your book?
Build the TARDIS from the plans found in the technical handbook from the 1980s.
Yeah, I think we've all done that.
Yeah, I think that was late.
I was looking at that.
And your book takes us right up to, we're talking about stuff that's contemporary, but your book takes us up closer to the modern era, right? If I remember correctly.
It goes as far as last year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I was trying to, when I was reading it, seeing that one.
So it's pretty much as up to date as you can get, because there hasn't been that much Dalek stuff in the past year, really. So it's. I was always worried that as soon as the book came out, it was going to feel out of date because there would have been other things. But luckily, I think the last history set that came out, certainly from the classic era, was Resurrection of the Daleks. So that was a nice full circle thing for me, because that was a story that started the whole obsession off. So that was a nice sort of bookend. And that was the last story that was waiting to be to be done in the history set. So I think
Very nice.
it's going to be up to date for a while. I think until a new Dalek design comes out, if ever they bring them back, if ever the show comes back. Yeah, so
I don't think I've ever heard someone say, "Luckily, there's no new merch."
Has there been a decline in the merch? Like, has it gone down? Would you say, like, in the more contemporary years, like maybe 5 to 10 years, has there been a decline in the production of the stuff?
I would say so. Yeah, I think certainly in the past 10 years, when you think, certainly back in the Capaldi era, you'd walk into Forbidden Planet or other shops, and there would still be loads of stuff on the shelves. Whereas it's really sort of gradually just lessened. I think also because when it comes to Classic Who, character options, which have obviously been the main supplier of the toys and figures, they've really done everything. So I think they've run out of classic stuff to do. And then it's really sort of making specific selections about what is going to sell from New Who.
Well, I was looking at the impressive Davros ones and everything. I was hoping we get a Capaldi in a Dalek the way it was from the episode. But that's pretty cool. I'm looking at all of them. I only thought there were, what is it, 4 or 5 in existence? Or is it just the 2?
The
Davros ones.
Oh, yeah, they've done quite a few, yeah. I've not got them all, so I've lost track.
Yeah, because I was hoping like I could get Capaldi in it, like it'd be interchangeable. We could take out Davros and put Capaldi in, or put like Clara in it. Because that would have been cool.
I think they've done a figurine version of that with the Capaldi in. I think like the Eagle Moss maybe did one. It would seem awfully intrusive to be able to extract Davros from his chair. That's not on.
Yeah,
they did it in the show.
I shouted and sweared at the television when they did that in the show. It was like, no, you don't go there. You don't do that.
Well, you know, me and Gadget are here in the States, and I didn't get a chance to go into this in the book. But is there, would you say, a big difference or disparity, or just some variation in the way that toys are produced, or I should say the rise and fall? Because, you know, during the Capaldi era, I think the show was more popular here in the States than it was before, but that was not the case in the UK. Do the toys sort of mirror that as well?
No, not at all. The quality has always been absolutely fantastic, and it keeps getting better.
Well, right, yeah. I mean, I know the qualities. I was more referring to the popularity. Was there a misalignment in the period of peak popularity in like the States or in the UK or maybe other parts of the world? Would you say?
I don't think so. I think Doctor Who merchandise is always going to sell, even if the show's not on air. Like back in the 90s, when stuff came out, we still rushed out and bought it.
I'm still looking for another set to fix this. That's what I'm saying. It's like all the toys have disappeared. It's like you can't really find anything. And I would have loved to have them bring a Dalek in, but they did. When she was opening the doors and everything, she got to see the Dalek, but that was it. And I was hoping for something brand new, you know.
So
Someone oh, go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry, I was going to make a stupid joke. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Take your stupid joke.
Oh,
Good.
okay. I'll make my stupid joke because Dave allowed it. Someone scare me by sending a Dalek prop up my stairs sometime and just go elevate and do it when I'm tired. That'll be a good wake up, you know.
There you go. No, I was just going to say we're going to take a quick commercial break here.
Mm-hmm.
So you viewers at home, if you've got any questions for Alex, please put those in the comments, and we will see you on the other side. Come back, become part of the legend.
Are you a movie nerd? Do you collect VHS, DVDs, CDs, records, and so much more? Are you looking for clothing from 1940s to 2000s? Do you need cosplay or themed outfits? Come to Ducky's Vintage. We have it all for all budgets, located at the Oviedo Mall right off of the 417. Ducky's Vintage for those born in the wrong decade.
I'm author Mark Muncy.
And I'm author Erica Lance.
And this is Eerie Travels.
Greetings, travelers. Join us as we travel through folklore, myths, monsters, legends, and dark history.
Now, we'll be your guide to the spooky side of reality as we discuss cryptids, paranormal, and all things preternatural.
Sometimes we find the truth is way scarier than fiction.
We're on twice a week on your favorite podcast platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube.
We have amazing guests from all of the areas of the strange and unusual, including witnesses, investigators, and more.
Yeah, with Erica's curiosity and ridiculous array of pop culture and true crime knowledge.
And Mark's decades of experience diving into folklore and the legends with the truth that's behind them.
Yeah, so join us, travelers, as we take you to the edge of reality, and we'll see you on the other side.
I didn't listen to that voicemail. I'll tear open that letter you sent. Don't you tell your friends I want you back. I gotta leave you now and unread, because you've already said those words that switch my heart to dead from loving you. So you'll stay ghosted and I'll stay focused on sewing clothes. The spell stays unspoken, a dark silhouette of a moth man and broken. Right down, I didn't listen to that voicemail or TikTok that story you sent. Don't you reel me in to get me back. I'm gonna leave you now.
That's right. You can pick up that wonderful Kitchen Killers barbecue sauce. You make sure you use the code TARDIS for a 10% discount. And Mark, I had actually meant to reverse the Kitchen Killers in your commercial so that you could have a chance to.
I'm just happy it's on there, guys. Thanks so much. Tune in to Eerie Travels, eerietravels.com, or wherever your fine podcasts are found if you want to hear folklore, monsters, and legends. So,
and what's the new book?
The new book is Dark Side of the Smoky Mountains. It's Eerie Travels Presents, and it's coming out August 23rd. Pre-orders available now. We do have copies available at we have some early copies we got from the publisher for when we do events and stuff. So it's been we've sold it at a few events. We're actually gonna be at Nashville Horror Con this weekend where we'll have copies, and we were gonna be at Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival where it's technically premiering at the end of the month. So in Gatlinburg.
There we go. Thank you for that.
Thanks for the plug, guys.
Hey, having read the book, it's great.
Yeah, you got a preview copy. That's right. So yeah.
Thank you for that.
All right, my pleasure. So now, Alex, speaking of marketing, how much marketing are you having to do yourself, or is Telos picking up the lion's share? That's the nice thing about having a publisher. They do a lot of the lion's share of it. So
yeah, absolutely. That was one of the appealing things about going with Telos is they got a well-established Doctor Who audience. So, but I think everybody, like any Doctor Who fan, usually likes Daleks. Some people might not, but I think you can tap into the Whoniverse in any number of ways, and hopefully find a readership there.
Nice. And it's a beautiful book. I got to flip through. I was at the Who shop in London, and I actually got to pick up a copy to flip through, and it's a nice big size book. You're not trying to squint at all these beautiful photos. So it's really well done.
Thanks. No, it was an absolute joy to design. It was also a bit of a headache at times when you're writing and designing the book at the same time, but it was a lot of work, but I'm really pleased with the end result, and I think it looks like how I wanted it to look. As I say, I imagined, there's a gap on my bookshelf. I need a book about Daleks. What is it going to look like? It needs to have a Dalek-y feel. It needs to have a Doctor Who feel, but not over the top with stuff. I think like one of the issues we had was obviously because of rights, we couldn't use a full image of a Dalek on the front cover. So we had a little bit of creative thinking about, well, what can we do? Let's show just the plungers. So just the various arms and the claws of all the different toys. And
That's great.
Yeah, true.
Because
Yeah,
I
that was well
wanted
done.
the book as well to feel a little bit like a collection. Everyone's collection is bustling and busy, and some fans have got rooms packed full of stuff, so it's quite busy and chaotic. And then you've got the Dalek text there, which is based on the box art of the 1970s Palitoy talking Dalek, because that's one of the most sort of iconic and memorable bits of graphic design when it comes to Dalek packaging. I thought that was a nice homage to that, to have that on the cover.
It gave me sort of the Absam Dalek Killer comic book vibe from it too. I think that was a very similar font. So that's what my brain was like, oh, that's cool. And for those 6 of us who actually read that.
I looked at the pictures.
Yeah. Oh, everybody, we all bought that when it finally came out to the States, just because more Daleks. Yes. And a badass guy with a sword attacking them. Yeah, we're in. So
Well, Alex, your book won't be available yet in North America for a little bit. I was trying to order it and couldn't get it through I cannot pronounce their name. I never could. The book author, you have tell us, right?
Yeah. Who North America stock it online?
Yeah, they said to wait for coming up details, and I was like, man. But thank you for letting me take a sneak peek.
Last time I checked, they got about 11, 12 copies listed on the website.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Who North America was the only way to get Doctor Who toys back in the day. They were the oldest running place, and they were also, if you imported Doctor Who toys on your own and then tried to sell them at a convention,
don't.
America would come and shut your booth down in a second. They patrolled every con. I remember a friend of mine had just some import Big Finish CDs that he had paid for, brought them over, and then they shut them down because they're like, nope, can't undercut us. We're the only ones with a license for it. So that licensing is a big thing with toys. So does that come up in your book at all?
Not really covered licensing, no. It's been more about the one of the things that I was obsessing over is particularly for the older stuff from the 60s and 70s, is the inaccuracy. So comparing the different models and looking at the various inaccuracies and what worked, what didn't, and then the reasons why, like the BBC didn't provide many reference photographs or plans or that sort of thing. So a lot of toy manufacturers just had one photograph to work off or that sort of thing. So I was more interested in slaving over those little obscure details because I thought that would be more fun to read.
Any surprises while you were researching that just like struck you out of nowhere?
Yeah, I mean, there was a few things. There was one particular mystery that I've been hoping to solve, and I think eventually did, was in the late 70s, there was a very rare silver and black version of the talking Dalek made, but only in a very sort of limited number, and they're pretty rare. So trying to get to the bottom of why they were so rare was, I didn't think I was going to get there. I think literally maybe the week or so before we were due to go to print, somebody got in touch, and a guy called Aaron in Australia, who runs Aaron's Collectibles, he had the answer. So that's in the book.
And so you got to get the book to find that out. Good call.
Of course.
So you know how there's a lot of missing Doctor Who episodes. I'm not sure if they're missing toys, but I wanted to ask Alex, what would be the holy grail, like the holiest of holy grail of Doctor Who toys, but one that, well, I guess, would you say, is there one that you do have and maybe one that you don't? Is that kind of thing exist in that world?
I think I came to the conclusion while I was working on the book that as a toy Dalek collector, I'm never entirely satisfied. You're always striving for something more. But I think the Resurrection Dalek that Character Options put out late last year, that ticked all the boxes for me. That was exactly the toy that I imagined holding back in 1984. So that's really, I'm satisfied, I think, with that. But I'd always imagined somebody making a toy Dalek that you could press the oval on the middle and the top bit would explode, and that hasn't been done yet. So
yeah, kind of like in the like Remembrance, I think, right? When they have sort of there's an exploding Dalek in Remembrance, right?
Yeah.
Couple.
Oh yeah, one of them sort of via baseball bat, as I remember.
Yep. The iconic.
Yeah. Nice.
Mark says in the comments, I was very privileged to share some of my collection and make some scenes of Daleks in action. Good old-fashioned smoke machine and light effects.
Works great.
Yeah.
I took some photos when we had a nice fluffy snow this winter. It was the first time I was able to drag out some of those figures, and you don't realize how good Daleks and Cybermen look in the snow until you put them out in those toys. And then generally, if you have them fighting an AT-AT, it looks really good. Oh wow, there you go.
Oh, are you adding AT-AT versus AT-AT debate? Are we?
Yes. Yeah, I'm an AT-AT guy.
An AT-AT.
Nope.
It's an AT-AT.
Nope.
That's the noise that Dave's making. He's like,
I was brought there at 5 months old. It's an AT-AT. For the first
I
one.
always called it the AT-AT as well.
Yeah. The audio novels call them AT-ATs. Thank you. So.
Well, AT-AT
and the radio adaptation called them AT-ATs. Yes.
Like I said, AT-ATs.
And that was a brilliant toy as well. Like I remember, I had one when I was little. I remember it was a Christmas present, but I was allowed to look at it for about 3 seconds in the run up to Christmas, probably just to shut me up.
Yeah, just let you know it was coming.
That was such a brilliant, big, amazing thing with all the compartments that opened and the lights and
the little guns and everything. And you can
I found a small one that big in a flea market at a church with 2 little Star Wars figures of the. And I don't know where it is in here. It's like I have the Millennium Falcon somewhere, but I can't find that. I found in the garbage. Someone threw that out.
That old original AT-AT, you could put Daleks in that, and there
that thing was huge. I remember that when my cousins had all those. Yeah.
Well, Alex, how much back in the day do you think kids were mixing together the Doctor Who and the Star Wars sets, like making a Dalek blast Darth Vader or something?
Probably not at all because of the size difference. The toys that you got in the 70s, they were pretty big compared to the Star Wars figures. I think any kid that had still got Star Wars toys when the Daypol figures came out, now you're talking because they were a similar size.
They're the right size.
I've got a photograph somewhere of, I was on holiday somewhere and I'd obviously taken my toys with me. I got my Sylvester McCoy figure, the Tetrap, and Maximilian from the Black Hole all around the TARDIS together.
Oh, wow.
There you go. There you go. I'd like Vincent and K9 together. That would be pretty epic. But
they would have their own spin-off, surely.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, that's like that writes itself. Oh my gosh. No, I think the toy line, back then the 70s was it was all GI Joe, which everybody thinks of little GI Joe. No, GI Joe was like 12-inch and all that, and the Doctor Who's were kind of around that size, and the Daleks worked well with those. So, now with Daleks, I know you were talking about the Remembrance set. They've done a couple other sets. What are some of the ones that collectors should look out for? What are just any toy a collector should really keep their eye out for?
I think one of the hardest ones to find now, and one that I failed to get at the time because I think Biff Bang Pow's Dalek that they did, just as they released it, they lost the license. And I spoke with Jason Lindsay for several hours while I was making the book, and the interview with him in there is a great read. He was such good fun to talk to. They released this sort of retro Genesis Dalek figure, quite a big chunky thing. But my order never got fulfilled because I think stocks never made it to the UK. So I've been eternally looking on eBay for those, but you can only sort of see plenty of them in the States, but you're looking at £100 or so plus shipping, which kind of goes beyond my budget. And I think is it actually worth? Maybe not, but that's a pretty rare one, certainly in the UK, because
if I see it at a convention, you want it?
Send it over.
Just send me a picture of the right one you want, and I'll check at the conventions here.
Yeah,
there's bound to be some, But I don't know how many they made, but I think they lost the license shortly after. So as I say, they're not as widely available as some of the others. I think one of my favourite Daleks is the 1960s Cherry Lee Swap-Its, the little colourful ones that you could swap all the parts. I've got a couple, but I always wanted more of those. There's something really cute and appealing about them.
You mentioned that you kind of kept the book to just fairly narrow focus on figurines. Is there anything that you kind of wish? Oh, I wish I could make an exception and put that in the book too, because it's just such a cool toy, but it didn't quite fit the criteria that you really wanted.
Nope.
No, you got everything in there.
There's a few deviations. We looked at the board game, the Dalek board game from the 1970s. We looked at the Dalek Bubble Bath, and I think the most off remit feature that I went was the Dalek Attack video game from the early 90s, which I liked a lot. So that was going in there. I thought, well, you play it. That's a kind of a toy.
That's a toy. Yeah, that Risk, that Daleks Conquer the World Risk is probably still my favorite Risk version.
That one I had a hard time finding. Yeah, that one was hard to find.
It's great because you're just moving little Daleks around the board, but taking over the world as they should. Now, one of our panelists who passed away, a good friend of the show, Simon Fisher Becker, he wrote an amazing autobiography, and it was called "My Dalek Has a Puncture," and it was talking about the old Dalek costume. Did that make the cut for your book, the old classic costume?
Yeah, there's a page on the two main costumes that were produced in the 1960s. They're both included, and they are both extremely rare these days, especially one because I think there was a fire that burnt the warehouse down and all the stock. So anybody that's got one of those has really got gold dust now.
Yeah, those are great. So, what? Who's that?
Alive! He's alive!
Had a quick glass of water and suddenly looks much more fleshified.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. What's Hello, Alex. Hang on a sec.
Hi there.
Hello.
Meet our regular showrunner, Christian.
Up.
He has to work in a day job, so that's why he couldn't be here.
Oh, he's got a day job. What is going on with my camera? I'm always out of focus. There we go. All right, back to.
So you were in the negative before.
Did you click on a mysterious Wi-Fi network by chance?
Yes, I did. I'm always. It's Peaches and Cream, Traveling TARDIS, and something else. So, and one that says "Do not use this under any circumstances." So, I always use that one first.
So there is a question in the comments here. But about your timescale says, tell us a little bit about your art and music.
I was going to ask about that too.
Yeah, that was the next topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's kind of another strand to my work is I was always a big fan of science fiction art growing up, and eventually got into doing my own stuff, maybe back in 2010, and sort of I've been working with publishers and authors doing book cover illustration just for science fiction stuff. And as a lover of electronic music, my sort of art and music eventually collided. I've been releasing music, instrumental stuff, under the name The Light Dreams since 2011. There's a lot of Doctor Who influence in there as well. A lot of the incidental music, the theme tune, you name it. All of that stuff's gone in there. So there's a lot of crossover with what I do. Sometimes I've done a piece of artwork that's inspired some music, or vice versa. Or a lot of my music has got a science fiction influence or a concept behind it. And every now and then I'll try and sneak in a Doctor Who title as a song title as well, just because.
As is proper.
Exactly.
And I think as a musician, there's always a hope that someone at the Beeb is going to look at that and be like, hey, I'm going to use that. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely, yeah. Hasn't happened yet.
Fingers crossed, right? I mean, they've used they've taken inspiration from fan title sequences before for their for I think the Capaldi one. So that would be.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Sean, did you have a question about one of his other books?
Yeah. You were talking about the Blackpool Expo and the other. I'm sorry. What was the title of the book that went over that?
Blackpool Remembered.
Okay. Yeah. So first I wanted to say I was very pleased to see a reference to Jean-Michel Jarre in there in the very beginning. I'm a big like kind of progressive rock and electronic fan. So like, Mike Oldfield fan. I like some of his. I'm not sure if I pronounced his name correctly, but I've heard some of his albums before. And I guess going off of that, you're talking about these Doctor Who expos from back in the day. And how great they were for fans. Is there anything that when you were writing that just like something that just really you pulled from that was evocative, just maybe like a detail or something that you're like, this really puts me back then, because I think you said you got to go to 1 or 2, right, before they stopped doing it?
Yeah, well, on your first point, yeah, Jean-Michel Jarre is one of my favorite musicians, so there's a lot of his influence in what I do. And I always find it somehow connects back to Doctor Who as well, which is why he's mentioned in there. Because in Blackpool in the 1980s, there used to be a lot of little arcade machines that played his music, played Oxygen. Oxygen Part 5, I think it was, on repeat. So that was always in the sea air. But yeah, no, the Blackpool Remembered was came about during the first lockdown. And it's the project of my friend John Collier. He'd been as obsessed as I was with the Blackpool exhibition, the original Blackpool exhibition, which ran from 1974 to 1985. We got together, and to cut a very long story short, we put out a free ebook it was over 400 pages long and had hundreds and hundreds of memories by fans who visited the exhibition over the years. And this year, with it being 40 years since the original Blackpool exhibition closed, I thought it would be a great idea to make a print version, heavily abridged, but a new, concise history of the exhibition. It really draws on a lot of nostalgia because anybody who visited that exhibition back then still has a real sort of place in their heart for it. You think, well, not every show, very few shows had their own permanent exhibition, especially back in the 70s and the 80s. And Doctor Who, of course, had 2. It had the one down in the south of England, in Wiltshire, at Longleat House, and a slightly bigger one up in the north in Blackpool. And I went there in 1985 as a awestruck 7-year-old. My world evolved around the show. So to suddenly be there face to face with a real Dalek and meeting the Cyberman and the Mallets, and it was like just stepping into the show. It was absolutely amazing. Highlight of my childhood, really. Such an experience. And that always stayed with me. So I think it was around 2010 sort of time I started thinking about it again and found a great Facebook group where people posted photographs. And this has been a very long sort of gestating project. And the book takes you through year by year, and every year's got a floor plan of what was on show that year. And we were very, very lucky to have a friend of ours, Richard Lever, who visited almost every year and took photographs without flash. Because obviously when you're in a dark space and you take a photograph with flash, it gets rid of all the ambient light. So a lot of people's photographs, including my own from the day, don't look great, whereas Richard's look amazing. They look like they were taken yesterday. They're so vibrant and colourful, just like the exhibition was. Because, a lot of those props and costumes were pretty crap when you saw them for real. They were pretty tatty. But under the right lighting, they looked so much better than they did on TV. And it was just such a great exhibition. So this has really been a labour of love for myself and John. And John visited the old site of the exhibition again back in May, just after the book came out. He took a copy of it up there and It's now a shoe shop, sadly, but certain features of it still exist, such as the entry and exit staircases, and you can still see traces of some of the old signage. So its ghost is still lingering in the building.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And I apologize for saying expo instead of exhibition. Expo, I guess, is more of a tech word, wouldn't it be? Exhibition, which is like showing off stuff from the show from that period, which I think is great. I mean, it was started in the early 70s, right? And like some of those episodes, like you mentioned, the Sea Devils and the Green Death, some of that stuff in there, that's like, we kind of tend to binge through things nowadays, but it was like really big at the time. And they were putting a lot of that stuff in there. Some that hadn't even come out yet, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, because what they did was every year they refreshed the contents of the exhibition to reflect the most recent season. So a lot of the time there would be things that appeared there that in some cases hadn't even been seen yet on TV or literally had been on the week before. And there was a lot of stuff which, and it's pretty sad that to think that a lot of the stuff just used to get thrown away. Certainly certain
That's the scary part.
yeah, there was a lot of exhibits that were never seen again, like the transparent incubating Dalek from Revelation of the Daleks was there in '85, which was the only time that was ever shown at any exhibition, and I think it must have been trashed afterwards. And other things like that. So various spaceship models and various costumes and things. So it was a real sort of Aladdin's cave of all the props and costumes. Not to mention the shop, which back in the 80s was a haven because it was the exhibition shops were the only places where you could get such a wide range of official Doctor Who stuff. And that was very exciting.
Yeah, how long did those run, by the way, when they every year, how many days and how many hours a day about would they run those?
Well, the Blackpool exhibition ran it coincided with the holiday season, so it would typically open at Easter and it would run through to October each year. So they'd have the months in between to regenerate the exhibition, which usually coincided with, Doctor Who used to at various points be on from September on through to January or what have you. So as soon as it finished filming and broadcast, they could get whatever they wanted from BBC storage and put in the two exhibitions.
And you said some of the bands that go ahead, Gadget, sorry.
No, I was just comparing it to when I went to the Doctor Who exhibit in 2016 and stuff, and some of the stuff you have in the thing I saw at the event, plus the newer Who and everything. So I was trying to figure out which way would it have gone if they had still continued. It would have been like the 2016 or stayed on track like it did with the older version.
Well, I think there was the Doctor Who Museum again in Blackpool opened in 2004, and that ran until 2009, I think. And that was the accumulation of the old Blackpool, Llangollen in Wales, and Longley exhibitions, plus a lot of the new stuff. So that was great because you got classic Who and new Who all in the same place. So I think, if Blackpool hadn't closed in the 80s, that would have just kept evolving with the show if the show hadn't been canned in 89. But yeah, you would need a much bigger space, obviously, because that was just the basement between underneath the cafe. So
because I got to see Betsy is the car and everything. I got to see a lot of cool stuff. That's why I said when I got to see K9, I wanted to take it home. I got to see all of the TARDISes, and I have a picture of it. I got to find it, but it was fun. I got to be on. I was on whose TARDIS did I get to get a picture on? I think it was David's TARDIS. It was Tennant's TARDIS, and that was like fun with everything. And I wish they had kept it because I would have loved seeing this season's TARDIS there, but they kept it at like all the other expos and Comic-Cons and stuff this time.
Yeah, it's a real shame there hasn't been a continual exhibition. But I think one of the issues compared to the old exhibitions, anything they've done since 2005 has really lacked atmosphere. Stuff's just been lit very starkly and not with any creative lighting, or you're just looking at a costume in daylight. Whereas Blackpool and Longley, most of the exhibitions were, you're in the dark for a lot of the time because everything was lit from within display cases on the walls and exhibition bays.
Nice.
So it was much more mysterious, and it just seemed right for the show. But of course, I think we've got obviously Neil Cole's Museum of Classic Sci-Fi up in the north of England now, which is a phenomenal collection of stuff. Even though it's only a small area, what he's got there is absolutely incredible. And that includes a lot of stuff that was originally displayed at Blackpool. And he's sort of taken his cues for the lighting of that, the sort of red, green, and blue lighting and atmospherics, and really paid tribute to that. It's really, really worth a visit. And it really does what a lot of the official exhibitions fail to do in terms of really giving you the right sort of atmosphere.
You got to go into the new ones with a sonic and just sonic off half of the lights so that the lighting's correct. Do you think if they would have continued it back in the day after Doctor Who got the axe, how much do you think people would have kept coming even though they weren't producing new content for the show?
Well, the Longley exhibition ran right up until 2003. And the one in Wales ran from 94 to 2003. So you got two exhibitions there still running through the wilderness years. And of course, there was also a devastating fire at Longley, which damaged and destroyed a lot of the classic props. But, they hosted conventions and themed days with the actors. So fans still went, just because Who wasn't on TV didn't mean the fans weren't there. And the fans would still be going to conventions and still be going to exhibitions. I guess from a business point of view, it would have been harder because it wasn't a popular thing. Not like it had been. So,
right.
I think it would have had its challenges for sure. And of course, when Longley closed its doors, it was only a couple of years before the show came back on TV, sadly. So that could have almost kept going.
Mm-hmm. Well, if there's one thing that Doctor Who fans are good at, by the way, it's waiting it out. I don't know what's going to happen to the show now, but I think even if they continue with the Comic-Con and stuff like that, I think fans will just always want more, even if the show's not running.
Agreed. Kristen, do you have a question?
Well, I'm afraid because I don't know what you've asked him. I just finally showed up. So, hello, Alex. I guess one of my questions is favorite Dalek episode.
Resurrection.
Oh, okay.
I love the Dalek color scheme in that, and I think it was the one that really started off my obsession. And I love Revelation equally. I think it's a brilliant story. I love the morbid, dark humor. But I think watching Resurrection at the time, how old was I, in 84, 6 years old, it really made an impression on me. I really did. I was fascinated with the Daleks. And, it's not the best story, but it's a great action adventure. There's decent visual effects in it. Davros was fantastic. It's just, it's one of the, for me, that's one of those comfort Who stories that I can put on at any point and never get bored with.
He's pointing the gun at Davros, and we're like, do it. just do it there. So with all the toys that you've seen around, I'm assuming you've already been asked what's your favorite, but is there something like that you purchased one of the Dalek toys and going like, why does this do that? Or, that was been defective or something like, when we have toys over here, sometimes they put out the wrong editions and such. Is there ever been a Dalek where it's like, okay, its arm moves up and down and does not supposed to do that? Or some ones that have been defective and just said, hey, that's not what a Dalek does?
Not really, no. I think when you look at some of the toys from the 60s and 70s, obviously they weren't that accurate. They were still nice and Dalek-y.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think certainly when I was putting the book together, I would be looking at those and thinking, by looking at the 1970s Dennis Fisher Dalek, for example, it was silver with blue hemispheres and a red dome. It's like, well, there hasn't even been a Dalek on TV in those colours. Granted, Terry Nation had one, and there was the Weetabix cards that had that colour scheme in, so it sort of came from the comics, I guess. But you think, hang on, Daleks hadn't had blue hemispheres on TV for years by that point, so why putting a toy out that's not up to date?
Looks like we have a question from Jim. He says, "Do you have a Dalek, Emperor Dalek? Where are the sides fold out like arms?"
I don't think so.
Oh,
That's a toy design where the arms fold out.
I don't know.
Is there Alex? Is there an off the wall crazy design that you've seen in a toy that you wish would appear on the screen in an episode?
From anything?
Yeah.
Well, I've always wanted a Malice from The Awakening. I think that would be a brilliant figure. Either the big face breaking through the wall, or a little one that you can hook on the side of your TARDIS walls. No one's done one yet, and I don't know why. I'm relying on some of the 3D printing stuff that's coming out now, that someone's going to do one. Because that was one of the scariest moments in Classic Who for me, and I think it was such a great design, and it just hasn't been done.
Okay.
What's your take on the Paradigm Daleks when they first appeared? Because I know a lot of people were a little bit... The Whoniverse kind of split on this one when they showed up, and they hadn't been seen since, except for, I believe it was Asylum of the Daleks, and that was the only time we've ever seen them. And they they've gotten a bad rep, but do you think that was a good idea, or do you think this was going okay? As a friend of mine called it, the Skittles Daleks, taste the rainbow. What do you think of the different multicolored Daleks in this particular case?
Yeah, no, I hated them. Really hated them at the time. I think in the UK we tend to call them the Teletubby Daleks. It was like the design of the Dalek is so perfect. Don't bloody mess with it. You don't need to be taller. They don't need to be fatter and wider. They don't need to come in Skittles colours. It was just a prime example of why not to mess with a good design. Although I did see the real props at an event in Sheffield, and seeing them up close for real, the actual props from the series, they were very impressive. And I sort of warmed to them a little bit after that, but I think it was just a mistake. It's not, you can do a lot with the Dalek color scheme and the details on the Daleks, the guns, without messing up the overall shape, because it's the shape that makes it a Dalek. And once you start to deviate from that, look at it, it's got a hunchback, it's all unproportional. Yeah, don't start me off on them.
Looks like you could kind of write it, doesn't it? Like it's like a horse Dalek.
Hello, Frodrick. It's got what hump? So not so much on the Paradigm Daleks, and yeah,
they did make a good toy though, because they already look like toys.
Well, I think that's what they were trying to impress, was what we have different colors, so different kids would have a different favorite one. And I always thought the Paradigm was like they were trying to do like a Star Trek, like the reds were for security and the blues were for like science, and the white ones were the military. I thought that was the goal in there.
The red shirt, depending on what era.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all the red Daleks are sent in to save the Doctor. They're the ones that go on scouting missions.
I heard a news report that in person the Paradigm Daleks looked pretty intimidating because they were tall, but on a tiny screen it just kind of looked like Fisher-Price toys with a tiny doctor next to them. My sister described them as Fisher-Price toys.
Yeah, the actual props are pretty big. They're pretty chunky, much bigger than the regular Dalek.
Yeah, like it kind of looked like the other Daleks, just kind of like shrank, rather than them becoming bigger,
I don't know if this question's been asked. If there was something that the Dalek could do that it doesn't do right now, what would you have the Dalek do besides, it took a while for it to fly. That took the Sylvester McCoy era to get finally, and I thought that was kind of cute because it kind of did give that little cliffhanger of, oh, this Dalek can't fly, and then all of a sudden it goes up the stairs. Was there
getting them to hover was a really good move.
Yes.
Because that also put an end to the old jokes about them not being able to get up the stairs. But I think making them fly, as they have done in later years, was just stupid because a flying Dalek looks ridiculous. And there's something, I don't know, it's not as menacing as something that trundles after you at ground level.
Looks like a gnat.
Yeah. They should have just kept them hovering or levitating a little bit, because that was, especially when you see in Dalek in 2005, when it just says elevate and then it just lifts up.
Mm-hmm.
It's really quite unsettling. I think that the design of the Dalek and everything that it can do as a science fiction villain is just brilliant. And that's why the appeal has always lasted through the decades, and everyone knows what a Dalek is. It doesn't need to do any more than what it does.
When you say something that looks ridiculous flying through the air and looks really silly, but can also kill you, in a way could be even more intimidating, because you're like, no one's going to be afraid of this and it's going to be too late.
I was waiting for the Doctor to invent a big fly swatter when they started flying.
I think it was the same criticism that the Weeping Angels get. I mean, they were good when they could only zap you back in time. Then they, each time Moffat grabbed them, he kept upgrading them, and then Chibnall upgraded them that they could send you in time a billion times over. And I'm wondering, I do like the idea that there might be just a little bit of a limitation to the baddies. And when the Daleks began to fly, I thought that was, in essence, it's like, okay, what can't they do nowadays? To in the same essence as the Weeping Angels, is just like now they snap necks, and then they, they have all these other talents that I'm thinking it's like, when is the limit for a Dalek? When is it too much?
When they start cooking and cleaning because they have the tools.
Yeah,
when it serves you a cup of tea. Yeah.
I'll get that Dalek.
I mean, you got the whisk and you got the plunger. I mean, come on.
Have you guys seen Eddie Izzard, the comedian Eddie Izzard? She did a whole routine about the Daleks, and it's like, this is Steve the Dalek. He's got 2 plungers. Like,
that one's for all your plumbing problems, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think with anything, one of my rules in doing any kind of creative work is always to have some restrictions of some sort, because when you've got some kind of confines, you've got to be more creative and clever within that. And I think the same applies to, if you're designing a character like the Daleks, give it limitations, almost like they did in the 60s when they were relying on the static of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was, they couldn't go beyond the city in that first story. Then, of course, they developed technology that allowed them to do that. But I think just allowing them to be able to fly and do this, that, and the other it just didn't really work as well.
Well, it's the same thing with the sonic screwdriver. I mean, remember the good old days when it just did...
When it worked like a screwdriver.
Exactly. Now it makes up holograph shields. And so it's like, okay, and now it looks like my ceiling fan remote at this point. And I was just like, okay, I mean, it's a screwdriver, And I did understand why Moffat came in and said, okay, he would probably tinker with it more, but for crying out loud, I'm just like, okay, it's still a screwdriver. It doesn't need to be Harry Potter's wand after 5 uses.
So the guy that his Sonic as a Harry Potter's wand.
Well, that's different. Have you ever been to Universal Studios, Alex? in Orlando, Florida, or
I
where
haven't.
Universal
No.
Studios. In over here at Diagon Alley, they have a thing where you can purchase a specific wand, go around the attraction area, and there are certain locations where you flick the wand and it will actually activate something in that location. And I wanted to take Capaldi's screwdriver, put the tip of a Harry Potter wand in there, move it around, so I sonicked everything as opposed to wand everything. That's what I wanted to do.
No, just get the Dalek making kit. Take the insides out and put it together like that.
Yeah, but you got to take something off of the Harry Potter wand to put it on there. But I was just like, yeah, wouldn't it be cool if I sonicked the umbrella that made it rain?
Well, there's 2 dials missing on that epic universe.
Okay.
Even
Who
the
knows?
I don't know.
called it a magic wand in the Robot of Sherwood, so it's been acknowledged on screen. It's canon. It is a magic wand.
Well, you gave us the best episode, Alex. What is an episode that you weren't pleased about? Which Dalek episode were you not pleased about? Or I know you're a fan of Dalek, so I guess if you're like me, any Dalek episode would work. But was there one that just like
Not necessarily. I haven't really enjoyed any Dalek episode since Stolen Earth.
Oh, okay.
I didn't like Army of Ghosts and Doomsday either. It just like nobody really knows how to write a decent Dalek story anymore. Asylum had potential. I thought that was really had a great premise, but they didn't really do very much with it. I'm kind of glad that there hasn't been a Dalek story in the past couple of seasons, because it's just like they don't need to be there for the sake of it. Give them, the more frequently they're used, the less novelty there is, the less to look forward to, the less excitement. If they're in a story that's just rubbish, when you've just got a Dalek trundling around what looks like a school corridor, firing its egg whisk, it's just whichever story that was, the one where they brought Barrowman back. But yeah, there hasn't been a decent Dalek story for ages, so I haven't missed them on TV in that respect.
No, that was one of the.
Go ahead, Christian.
No, you're fine. That was my misgiving with Chibnall, because he kept bringing back for what we call the New Year's or the holiday season, and it's just like, okay, this is getting overdone. Yeah, you can oversaturate the Daleks. You do need to put them in timeout for a while, and I would assume that would be like for any monster, but the Daleks are just, special Dalek episode. And I said, well, what about the 300 other villains and monsters that, we could put out there in place of them, or the monsters that have been sitting in Classic Who doing nothing, just collecting dust? Why can't we bring those out? But yeah, it's about anything in the story. If you oversaturate it, then people are like you said, it loses its novelty, and that's a shame for the Daleks, because they are. If you can give them a time off and bring them back and put them into a new story, or even Davros. What did you think of the Davros story, where they that idea that the Daleks had a graveyard and it was Dalek goo? It was
Which one was that?
The Witch's Familiar, the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Oh, I didn't even watch that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I'd tuned out completely by that point.
Oh, really? Wow. There was actually a backstory for Davros. I'm not going to give you too much, but they actually went into kind of the backstory of Davros just a little bit.
Was that the one where he was like a boy at the start?
Yes.
Yeah, I think maybe I did see that, but I've obviously forgotten about it. Didn't make that much of an impression on me. Again, there's some things that you just don't need to explore further. And I think Davros being one of them. It worked really well on the Big Finish audios.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't need to be reworked and turned into a TV episode. For me, I don't think.
So you like the Big Finish story Davros then?
Yeah, I haven't heard it for a long time, but I remember thinking, yeah, this was great, because Big Finish have just got a knack of doing everything just right, right kind of atmosphere, good casting, and decent writing. I always thought Spare Parts was a really good story, which of course they sort of semi did for an episode of Torchwood.
So if you had, let's just say you had power beyond, and you could get, let's just say RTD is still making Doctor Who. What would you tell RTD if it came to the Daleks? What would you tell him to make sure that he did or did not do?
I'm not sure what I would tell him is broadcastable right now, but yeah, I think, like much of the show, it would benefit from going back to its roots. The mystery is gone. There needs to be more sort of an element of suspense, mystery, and sort of terror. And you look at something like Genesis of the Daleks, and that was such an epic story and told so well. And the way that they lit the Daleks in the low lighting with the shadows in the corridors, they looked fantastic in that story.
Mm-hmm.
I think also the Bronze Dalek has become pretty boring now, whereas they used to change the library quite often. Almost every story had more variations in, whereas now they're just all bronze. Sometimes you get a red one or there's a black one. But I think the new design they did was a perfect reimagining of that classic design, because it kept everything intact. But with all the machine lines and the bolts and everything, it really made it look more modern and robust. But I think that design, or a variation of, perhaps back in the classic colours for more of a nod to the black and silver or black and grey variety, would look really great again on screen. Because I think there's still a degree of nostalgia that people look for in stuff, especially like Doctor Who. And it could get a nice balance between a nod to the past, but also keeping it very current.
Would you play a Dalek on the screen if they let you do that? Would you climb into a suit and exterminate people?
I'm not sure my back's up to it, to be honest.
Wait, what about the Dalek builders? Can they build him one to fit in?
I could barely fit in one of those things.
Then we got to make a dot brush chair for one for him.
Yeah, we have the Dalek build
chair here.
If we want to stand, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Good.
If we want to stand on screen, we'll just bring in the Paradigm Daleks, and we can just segue our way through, across the screen as we, exterminate people. Just lean forward to exterminate.
Taste the rainbow. Yeah, we have Dalek Builders of Florida here, and we'll be making announcements as soon as we get to the end of the show about our appearances out there. But Dalek Hal, Dalek Ren, and quite a few of them out there. There's actually one that was designed, from what Marvin's told me, was based upon the color scheme of Hal from 2001: Space Odyssey. Wow. And unfortunately, I don't have a picture of him. I should have brought those pictures in, and I did not. Did you see Destination Skaro, and what did you think of RTD's take on Davros and not having his life support system?
It's just absolute rubbish. Let's just pretend it didn't happen.
Okay. Works for me.
You're talking to a diehard Dalek fan.
We have a question from Raj. I think we talked about it, but just in case there was anything else you wanted to bring up, Alex, how about the Dalek Asylum?
Yeah, I thought that was a brilliant idea. As I think I said earlier, that was a really good idea that I wish they'd done more with, made it perhaps into a two-parter or something and really explored it more. Because that idea of having all the different versions of Daleks that had all the different types from over the years that had gone mad or malfunctioned or whatever. I think that was a great idea and a brilliant looking episode as well. I just wanted more of it.
Would you want to see Absalom Doc make its way to the TV show?
I think he would probably have his own spin-off, wouldn't he?
He could. And
with a ponytail? That's debatable.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes, have the ponytail.
I suppose it's better than a mullet.
And just in case, for people who may not be familiar, there was a character in, I think, the comic books called Absalom Doc, who was actually a Dalek killer. And he is kind of in the spin. He kind of is in his own world in a spin-off series. But I've always wondered what would happen if he actually made his way to the small screen. What would it look like? But
would he survive it?
Would he survive it? Yeah, I think he would. That's just my opinion on that.
Any character on screen that's like closely associated with the Daleks just needs to be played by Nick Briggs. It's only fair. He can quote them back. You know?
Oh, he's got the corner market on monsters, so
Yeah.
Maybe Nick should be the next showrunner.
there you go.
Oh, unambiguously, I think that's true.
I think he's.
I'd vote for Nick.
I vote for Nick too, but his hands is too much in Big Finish, and he's putting out like one every day at this moment. And it's just like, wow, I can't even keep up anymore. It's just like either I have to rent, I have to not pay for the mortgage, or fill myself in a room full of Big.
Yeah, I think finding the time is a hard thing. I really enjoyed the Big Finish audios back in the late 90s, early 2000s when they first came out, before the show came back, because it was really plugging the gap. But I've always preferred to watch Doctor Who rather than read it or listen to it. So
what's your favorite Big Finish audio with the Daleks, and why is it Jubilee?
I'm not sure I've even heard all the ones they did. I think, although it's not a Dalek story, there was a Dalek moment in it. I think one of my very favourite ones was Dust Breeding, which was quite an early one they did. But that was a great story.
So for the use of you.
Sorry, what was the name of the Big Finish? I didn't hear.
As Dust Breeding.
Dust Breeding.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Christian.
And just in case, if you need to get it, you can get the link. I posted it in the link to all of our StreamYard destinations. It's www.amazon.com/evolution toy Dalek Alex store, and you just put Mark's in there. It's in the chat, so you can just paste and copy wherever. Is there any other place besides Amazon they can get your book there, Alex?
The Telos website is, I guess, the main supplier, particularly for the UK. But yeah, any bookstore can probably order it in for you. And Blackpool Remembered, of course, is also available exclusively via Amazon, and that's available worldwide, I believe, because that's published by Amazon.
And is your music only available on stream, or do you have some CDs and everything we can order?
Both. I'm on all streaming platforms as The Light Dreams, so Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, all the rest of it. Bandcamp is probably the main home for my music, where it's CDs and downloads.
I'm going to put this into the chat too. This is where is it? Here it is. The Telos. If you want to get it from Telos, for our friends in the UK, telos.co.uk/shop/Doctor Who/Evolution TV. And you can get that on there. Yeah, that's a good question, Raj. Is it at Barnes and Nobles as well?
I think it may be, or you can order it, get it on order.
Didn't we say it was Who? It was the Who page, right? That I was telling you about. North America one.
Who North America?
America.
Yeah, it's on their website. So they've still got a few copies.
Mm-hmm.
All over the place.
It's even in a shop in New Zealand, which I was amazed about. But it's just been so exciting seeing it not only landing in people's homes, but turning up in all corners of the globe. So.
Well, Alex, I know it's late in your area, and if you need to go for it. But is there any final words you want to tell our audience about something that you haven't had a chance to talk about your book here, and anything that you would like to tell our audience?
I don't think so. I mean, I think if you like Daleks, then this is definitely a book for you. And any fans of classic Who, and particularly the exhibitions and Blackpool Remembered, is the closest thing to time travel that myself and John could come up with. But it is a really in-depth researched book about the history of a very iconic exhibition. And there's plenty of Daleks in it too, because I also designed it, so there couldn't not be, really. No, I think, I'm really grateful for anybody that's going out of their way to read or buy either of these books. I think, when you've not really published books before, you suddenly feel like a bit of an imposter. But when I first met, I've been good friends with Steve Camden for many years. And Steve wrote the foreword for the Blackpool book, coincidentally. He was assistant K9 operator in 1979. He was in the right place at the right time, found himself working on the show as a 16-year-old, and he's been associated with Doctor Who ever since. And I first met him at a convention in 2002. And I remember saying to Steve, I said, I really want to do something. I want to produce something. I didn't know what. Just make, design, draw, write something that would be out and available in the Who sphere. So it's only taken 23 years, but with these two books, I've achieved that, and I'm really proud of it.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Well, Alex, thank you so much for coming on our show. Don't forget. There you go. Let me.
There's the books.
Oh, Alex, bring him up. Bring him back up again, so everybody gets to see them. And if anybody wants to screenshot this, go for it. There you go. So, Evolution of the Dalek and the Blackpool book. Make sure you can get them from TELUS Publishing or at Amazon. And we'll go ahead and wrap up the show. So, without further ado, our philosophy, Mr. Sean, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Our Philosophy is 9119. I think that is the correct number. If you want to see me talk about nerd/geeky content in a queer-friendly space, including a lot of Doctor Who stuff, I do that over there. I've recently taken on the journey of reviewing all of the Troughton episodes. So if you're interested in that, or following some new stuff as it comes out here and there, go over there and see if you like what I got there. Thank you.
Thank you. Gadget, where can people find you?
Everywhere and anywhere. I just got it right now, the 4-day pass to Anime NYC. So if anybody wants to catch a glimpse of me with the Legend of Traveling TARDIS Squishy, we can get your picture and you can be the next honorary companion. That's going to be August 21st through the 24th. I'll be at the Bronx Comic Con August 2nd and New York Comic Con. I'm waiting on that, but I think I got that nailed in for October. Otherwise, it's anywhere and anywhere here in the Bronx, New York. And you can pick up my books, Copley and Newcastle Journey and Beyond, and the unofficial D&D guide for kids under 10 and a few adults on lulu.com, because I'm going to have to raise the price, though, guys. So get it well before I have to raise them and everything. And you can see the link right down there below. But trust me, if you have any kids that are dyslexic and autistic, they will love this book. Anybody wants to find out my trip in England, it's interesting. And everything, so check it out. Everything, and also be kind and pray for Texas.
And just to point out that that website right down there for Gadget has both books added, despite the fact that it's a link specifically for the both books are on there.
We also have the hard copy, the audio on there, and pretty soon I'll be working on probably books 2, 3, and 4 because they're in the can right now, trying to get re-edited.
Speaking of which, Dave. When did you last time you spilled the geek tea?
Exactly. Geek tea on Sundays, right here on the Traveling TARDIS, of course, on Tuesdays. On my own channel, youtube.com/TheRatHole DOTCA. I'm a little quiet on there for the next couple of weeks, but as soon as I get back from the trip I'm on right now, immediately I'm going to be streaming for 2 days solid. From RPG-a-thon in Edmonton. So if you are in the central/northern region of Alberta, please check out RPG-a-thon. Come say hi. And of course, my new show, The Happiness Patrol.
It's a good show, guys.
/@ Happiness Patrol Show. The second episode just dropped this past Thursday, and episode 3 drops on the 7th of August, first Thursday of every month.
Gotcha.
And if you're around the Brussels area, I don't know if we have anyone watching from Belgium. I'll be in Brussels here in a few days for the Quad Ball World Championships, Quad Ball World Cup.
Alrighty. And as for myself, I love that we can see the volume track. That's a new one for StreamYard.
They updated a lot of things.
They updated a lot of things. For us, you're going to love this, Alex. First of all, we're talking about Daleks and the Dalek Builders of Florida. Not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, July 19th, it's starting at 11 a.m. Over in Melbourne, Florida. The Daleks will be invading Famous Faces and Funnies, one of the largest comic book stores here in Florida, a day with the Daleks. So Ren, Hal, and all the team from the Daleks of Florida will be there to answer questions. We're also planning on having a cosplay contest, Doctor Who trivia, you name it. We're going to be out there for most of the day. So please, and again, free admission, free parking at Famous Faces and Funnies. And the Dalek Builders will be joining us over at Ancient City Con, where September 12th through the 14th, World Golf Village Renaissance Resort in St. Augustine, Florida. We'll be there with the Dalek Builders, and they'll be invading the World Golf Village Renaissance Resort. So I can't wait for that either. And see the special guests. If you want to get your tickets now or any information, ancientcitycon.com. And also don't forget, and this is the one that everybody loves, Alex, we're the only Doctor Who podcast sponsored by barbecue sauce. So
is that post-extermination?
What's that?
Is that post-extermination?
Yes. It's
They're shipping a Dalek in the picture too.
Yeah, next time. Kitchen Killers barbecue sauce. Get it now you can write on the email kitchenkillers at gmail.com, and make sure you put somewhere in the subject line or in the post TARDIS for your 10% off. Also, we'll be providing the barbecue sauce over at Ancient City Con, as well as at Famous Faces and Funnies 2 weeks from now. And you saw the little skeleton earlier. So if you notice anything, if you know anything about us, Alex, Halloween now begins July 5th, the day after Independence Day. And I got the traveling TARDIS to take it. And there's this place called At Home. Not a sponsor or anything, but I just had a good time taking over there. It was just huge. I mean, just a huge selection of Daleks of Halloween stuff. Yeah, and I was getting used to also playing around with my editor, as far as I'm trying to get as good as Faith, who does our thumbnails, and I was just playing around with some ideas, and I think everybody loves it, especially around Halloween. We're hoping to return to Halloween Horror Nights, having some difficulty, but hopefully this year we'll also be going to Halloween Horror Nights with the traveling TARDIS. Also, we almost made it. Yeah. So 66,000. Yeah. Are we there yet?
Let me check.
I already checked. We're not there.
Did? No.
We're not there yet? How far are we?
Because we're still at 69.9.
Okay,
What?
so almost to 67,000. We're very close, and hopefully by August we will be at 75, according to one of our tracking apps, and hopefully by 100,000 by the holidays. Now we did have
100,000. They get to see me down in Florida.
There you go. And one other thing, I didn't get this in time for the Who Knew News. I apologize, but we are doing polls for including on our YouTube channel. So if you ever want to give your idea, give your take on things, and the question this week: how excited are you to see the war between the land and the sea?
Oh God!
And yeah.
Oh no! And that's
Alex,
the sad part, because that's what the tie-in was with UNIT and everything. The thing that I put with the news. That's why I was waiting for this, because it's to promote the land of the. Yeah. Oh God.
I'm feeling bad for Mark right now. Mark, our Candyman says, Alex, are you excited to see the war between the land and the sea? Is that something you're excited in?
No.
Okay.
Moving along.
Well, apparently more than the majority of our online pollsters said no, they're not.
I think it's the way
excited.
it was presented because it doesn't look like a Doctor Who thing. It looks more like a sci-fi, like throwback.
It looks like it's its own thing, and it's not. It feels. It doesn't feel like
it's not Torchwood own thing. It's like it's not even Doctor Who.
Well, hopefully they'll pull an Andor. Hopefully they'll pull an Andor, and it'll be like the best thing they've ever made.
That would be scary.
What's that series for the Star Wars with the kids in it and everybody?
Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew. I mean, it was the underdog of the whole Star Wars series, and everybody says they love it. It's just they didn't advertise it. They didn't. They assumed Disney didn't even think it was going to do that good. I was just like, dude, you're the Disney Channel, and everybody loved it. So
the degree to which Disney advertises this, if they don't advertise it, it'll be great.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. The more they advertise it, the worse it'll be.
I'll watch it, but I'm not sort of excited about it.
What's that, Alex?
I said I'll definitely watch it, but I'm not sort of like counting the days down.
That's what I feel too. I just don't feel any excitement for the war between land and sea. I don't hear much about it.
Just that one trailer, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. It was just like, okay, here's an afterthought, and I don't know. I don't know if Disney's pushing for it. I think,
we don't have a release date for it yet, so
yeah. I just maybe
done.
I guess the mouse is waiting to see how that does before they make their say, or else they're just like, you know what, this is going to be the end run for Doctor Who. We still haven't gotten an official word, so
I will laugh for several hours if they're like, we're picking it up for 3 more months
because of the lens.
Yeah,
or they picked that up and they kicked Doctor Who out. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Or if they pick up Doctor Who, if he woke up from a fever dream and that was all a dream, and season 3 is they're finding what happened to Ruby's lineage.
Oh. Well, with that in mind, folks, we'll see you next week. Next week should have the Dalek Builders and our friends from Famous Faces and Funnies. We're going to be talking more about the little get-together that we're going to be having in Melbourne, Florida. Alex, thank you so much for coming on out there. And everybody, as a reminder, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That will help the algorithms, and hopefully it will kick us over to 67,000. And of course, missing something here. Where is he? Please don't. Oh, okay. If you're not familiar with it, we did lose Simon Fisher, and we want to make sure that he's in every episode that we do. And everybody say goodnight to Simon. And of course, for anybody who's been watching us,
under a rock,
different type of Rose. And whatever you do, folks, be safe out there. Mm-hmm. And until the next adventure, where's the damn button?
Simon wants to say,
Tony, take us out.